Alright, so Friday has come and gone, and the installation is a resounding success. This thing sounds amazing. Let me show you what they did. Now remember, the front door was going to have a component system where the tweeter and the woofer are separate. So the woofer is sitting there in the door, like the old speaker was, and then they gave me the tweeter up here with a new custom panel so that it fits in seamlessly. And it looks pretty awesome. The only downside that I can see is that my knee, when I'm sitting here, comes like right up to that speaker. So I have to just adjust myself a little bit so it doesn't block it too much. There it is on the other side. Pretty cool looking. Teleporting to the front real quick, because I forgot to mention that this guy right here, you know, I say he's a 4x6. Guess what? He's not. I have no idea what that is, actually. One of these days, I'm going to pop those screws off and find out what exactly that thing is. My working theory is I did a little research on the Jimmy, and it turns out that way back in the year 2000, when these cars were being made, there was an optional factory upgrade to get Bose speakers. Like an entire upgrade to all the speakers, and all the further research also suggests that those upgrades weren't exactly worth the money. I still don't know if that's true now, but back then it was. But I think that's where they were going to put more speakers if you got the upgrade. And then back here, this is the left door. Remember, this door speaker was dead. In fact, on the little report sheet they gave me, they actually figured out this left door speaker is dead. And this one, of course, is the two-way speaker. This one is where the woofer and the tweeter are together. And I found out that I was wrong about these being 5.5-inch speaker holes. They're actually 6 3/4, which is a great thing because that gives you an extra 1.25 inches, if I did my math right, of surface area, or in terms of diameter, which adds to much more than that in terms of surface area, which allows you to have better bass response in the back. And when my brother and I were testing this thing out, he actually commented he thought it sounded better back here than it did up front, which I thought was interesting. And jumping back here real quick, because I wanted to show you the old speakers. This is a front speaker. It's paper, very dirty. Yeah, just kind of something I found interesting. This is a back speaker. This, I believe, is back right. I noticed it had a little paper cone. It's still one speaker. They put like this little paper cone where like the little tweeter is, I guess. And this, I'm assuming, is the left speaker because that cone is smashed. I don't know if it came out like that or if the techs did that because they didn't care. Frankly, I don't either. But those are the old ones. No wonder they sounded bad. And then, of course, the amp is installed below the driver's side seat, and this is where they mounted in power. This is where all the speaker connections go out, and then in the back is where the 4 line level plugs from the stereo come in, and then there's also the controls to change excuse me, the high pass, low pass filter and the bass response for both ends. Now, there's an interesting story about this amp. Alright, so the install took about 5 hours, 15 minutes, and when it was done, my brother and I just kind of jumped in the car and turned it on and didn't really mess with anything as we drove home. And it sounded okay. That was the best way to describe it. It sounded okay. So then I take it home and then I start really messing with it. And I made an interesting discovery. They flipped my left and right channels. So if you look at it from this angle, when I panned the audio all the way to the right, it came out of the left side speakers, which is not supposed to happen. So what I had to do is I had to take the amp out from underneath the seat, and while everything was still running, I had to figure out which channel went where, because of course the instruction manual was gone from the box. So I had to figure out which one went to where, so that if I panned it forward, only the forward speakers worked, and if I panned it to the right, only the right speakers went on, etc., etc. I also had to turn off the high and low pass filters that had been activated on the amp, because they were the default settings and the text didn't mess with them. I had to take them over to full spectrum because I don't have a sub. Those are in place so that if you have a sub, you can turn a high pass filter on so that it doesn't handle frequencies at 80 Hertz or 60 Hertz below, so you can send them straight to the sub. It also has a low pass filter so that if you do a thing called bridging the outputs, so that you take 2 outputs and put them together to combine their wattage, then you can run a small sub that way off of the amp. That basically turns it from a 4-channel to a 3-channel, 2 speakers and a sub. and that's one way you can run a sub. That has a high-pass filter so that those two channels don't handle the high frequencies. And then, once I turned that off, suddenly these speakers went from being okay to absolutely amazing. The bass is actually really impressive for only 6 3/4" speakers, considering that normal subs have speakers 8 inches wide or larger. So I'm very impressed with these speakers, and I really like the fact I got them on sale too. So it was a really nice deal.